Welcome to Cruise News, your daily update on everything happening at sea. Visit cruisenews.io to see today's stories and sign up for email alerts. Cruisers face some pretty significant vacation planning choices this week.
Yeah, they really do. It's a lot to navigate.
It is. I mean, we're looking at a landscape of serious health and safety updates, sudden itinerary replacements, and, well, some newly emerging 2026 pricing strategies.
Right, and underneath all of that, it really comes down to control. Like how operational conditions, whether that's international public health logistics or just shifting port availability, can just completely upend a cruise line's schedule.
Absolutely. And how they're spending massive amounts of capital to get that control back, which directly impacts, the decisions you make when planning your time at sea.
Exactly. The cruise industry operates in this highly complex, interconnected global network. The variables are always shifting.
Well, we're starting today with the most serious news impacting the industry, moving right into the public health update regarding ocean-wide expeditions.
Yes, the Hondius.
Right, the Hondius. We're reporting soberly on the conclusion of the quarantine phase for the crew following that April South Atlantic voyage.
It's been a very long process for them.
It has. To state the verified World Health Organization figures plainly, there were 12 confirmed cases and one probable case tied to this outbreak. And tragically, that resulted in 3 deaths.
It is a very serious situation.
Yeah.
And the completion of this quarantine phase really marks the end of a highly coordinated and frankly unprecedented international response.
Because of the timeline, right?
Exactly. The quarantine timeline itself was dictated by a 42-day maximum incubation window, which was established by health officials specifically for this pathogen. Ocean-wide expeditions confirmed this week that all remaining Hondius crew members have successfully completed their isolation periods and are now heading back to their home countries.
And this wasn't just a matter of keeping everyone on the ship. The crew was dispersed at different points in the journey.
Right, some disembarked earlier. Specifically, the crew members who disembarked in Tenerife in the Canary Islands on May 11, as well as those who stayed on board until the vessel finally arrived in Rotterdam on May 18.
Wow. So they were isolating in different countries.
Yes. During this time, the crew in the Netherlands isolated without family members or loved ones present. It was a rigorous and very isolating process.
Ocean-wide Expedition CEO Remy Boyset actually released a statement about the crew's conduct through all this. He formally thanks them, noting they worked through exceptionally difficult and highly unusual circumstances.
Which is very true.
He specifically commended the team under Captain Jan Dobrogowski for remaining calm, professional, and coordinated. Oceanwide also confirmed that tests taken at the start of the final week came back negative. So no new health complaints or cases among the crew. But, looking at the logistics of this, the multi-jurisdictional scope is just staggering.
Oh, it cannot be overstated. Consider the geography here. You had an itinerary departing Ushuaia, Argentina on April 1st. On board, there were 175 passengers and crew.
From all over the world, right?
Representing 23 different countries.
Yeah.
So as the vessel moved north through the Atlantic toward Cape Verde and Tenerife, the public health response required real-time data sharing across multiple continents.
Because once people start flying home, you're not just dealing with a maritime issue anymore. You're dealing with global aviation and local public health departments everywhere.
Precisely. Like in the U.S., officials from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention confirmed on June 24 that the monitored Americans who were exposed on the Hondius had completed their quarantine periods and returned home with no positive tests.
That is good news.
And furthermore, the government of St. Helena, which is a very remote island in the South Atlantic where many passengers initially disembarked, they officially ended their major incident status on June 8.
Okay, so that was quite a bit earlier.
Right, but they only did so after all monitored contacts completed their mandatory isolation with no active, suspected, or confirmed cases remaining.
Which brings us to the remediation of the vessel itself. Oceanwide stated that medical information indicates the virus was introduced before embarkation, so it didn't originate from the vessel or its operating standards.
Right, but the ship still had to be thoroughly cleared.
Exactly. And the Hondius is a 107.6-meter, 170-passenger Polar Class 6 ship. It's built for remote polar expeditions. Plainly speaking, what does it take to clear a vessel of that classification after a lethal outbreak?
Well, the clearance process was comprehensive and strictly regulated. The Dutch Health Authority, GGD Rotterdam-Rijnmond, assumed jurisdiction the moment the ship arrived in the Netherlands.
Okay.
They conducted a thorough top-to-bottom inspection of the vessel on May 29. And following that inspection, they officially cleared the Hondius to return to service on May 30, stating there were no objections from a public health perspective.
I just have to imagine cleaning an 8-deck polar expedition ship is incredibly complex.
Yeah.
It's not like, wiping down a hotel room. It sounds a bit like trying to dry clean a floating skyscraper.
That is a great way to visualize it, yeah. The remediation was executed by a specialized 13-person team from EWS Group. They were tasked with treating all 8 decks.
Wow, what did they actually use?
Their protocol utilized high-temperature steam cleaning for all soft surfaces, so carpets, upholstery, expedition gear combined with registered disinfection products, specifically hydrogen peroxide for all hard surfaces.
Why hydrogen peroxide?
It's utilized in these scenarios because it can be aerosolized to reach into complex ventilation systems and tight maritime corridors, neutralizing pathogens without leaving toxic chemical residues behind.
That makes sense. And in addition to the chemical and thermal cleaning, qualified third-party professionals were brought in to declare the ship entirely rodent-free.
Right.
The ship is now operating in the Arctic as scheduled, but with an entirely new crew. But this brings up a crucial medical question. When I hear hantavirus, I typically think of, mice in dusty old cabins, not a luxury polar expedition ship.
Yeah.
What is it about the Andes strain of hantavirus that caused this widespread quarantine?
That is the pivotal question. Hantavirus is almost always contracted through direct exposure to infected rodents or breathing in their aerosolized droppings. But the Andes strain is a unique outlier in virology. Health authorities note that in rare cases, this specific strain can spread directly from person to person.
Oh, wow. So it was that tiny margin of human-to-human transmission that triggered the massive global net.
Exactly. It was that rare potential for human-to-human transmission, combined with a very long 42-day maximum incubation window that really tied the hands of health authorities. The CBC, the Dutch government, St. Helena, the Canary Islands, they had no choice but to cast an incredibly wide surveillance net and mandate strict isolation protocols. They couldn't leave anything to chance.
From the complexities of international health logistics, where cruise lines are reacting to forces completely outside their control, we pivot to operational logistics.
This is a big one.
Yeah, we're exploring how shifting port availability is forcing cruisers to adjust their long-term itineraries. Norwegian Cruise Line is altering the November 12, 2027 9-night sailing on the Norwegian Star.
And that's still years away.
Right. But because of a lack of port availability in Lisbon, Portugal, the cruise line has been forced to move the embarkation port to Tarragona, Spain.
This is a perfect example of how heavily congested European ports are dictating the passenger experience right now. This change doesn't just, tweak the schedule, it completely reworks the geographical footprint and the entire flavor of the sailing.
Because the original itinerary was supposed to be a rugged exploration of the Atlantic and North Africa, right?
Yes. It originally included calls at Funchal in Madeira, Santa Cruz de Tenerife, and Arrecife in the Canary Islands, as well as Agadir and Casablanca in Morocco.
And what does the new route look like?
Well, all of those Atlantic and African ports have been dropped.
Wow, all of them.
Every single one. In their place, the revised route is now a standard Western Mediterranean itinerary. The Norwegian Star will now call at Marseille in France, and then La Spezia, Livorno.
So very heavy on Italy now.
Exactly. It also adds Civitavecchia and Salerno in Italy, plus Valletta in Malta. The itinerary retains only the call at Palma de Mallorca before concluding, as originally planned, in Barcelona.
I mean, if you booked this 2027 sailing specifically to see Casablanca or the Canary Islands, you're probably pretty frustrated right now. Norwegian basically took an Atlantic exploration cruise and turned it into a greatest hits of the Mediterranean milk run.
It's a completely different vibe.
It really is. So let's look at the practical implications for you, the listener, if you are planning to embark on this revised sailing. Geographically, your embarkation day just got quite a bit different. You aren't just strolling out of a cafe in central Lisbon onto your ship anymore.
No, you are not. You will now be heading to Port de Tarragona's Mal de Balears terminal.
And that's pretty new, isn't it?
Very new. It's a newly developed 2,200 square meter facility that just opened in June 2024.
The crucial logistical detail here, though, is that the terminal sits roughly 2 to 4 kilometers from the Tarragona city center. Because it's located within a surrounding industrial port area, it is not a highly walkable transit for passengers carrying luggage.
Right.
It's somewhat akin to being dropped off on the shoulder of a busy commercial highway with your suitcases. You will definitely need to rely on cruise line shuttles or local taxis to navigate between the terminal and the city proper.
It is helpful to understand the broader context of both the ship and the port to see why Norwegian made this specific substitution. The Norwegian Star is a 91,740 gross ton vessel. It was built in 2001, refurbished in 2021, and carries a capacity of 2,298 passengers at double occupancy.
That's a lot of people to move.
Exactly. When a ship of that size loses its berth in a primary port like Lisbon, there are very few backup options that can handle the infrastructure requirements. The provisioning, the luggage handling, the sheer volume of passenger transit.
And Tarragona is actively positioning itself to be that backup option.
They are aggressively growing their cruise footprint to catch this overflow. In 2025, the port handled roughly 126,348 passengers. But looking ahead to 2026, they are forecasting approximately 160,000 passengers.
That's a big jump.
It is. Furthermore, Norwegian Cruise Line is increasingly utilizing Tarragona as an alternative embarkation point across its fleet. They actually also moved a planned October 2026 Lisbon departure on the Norwegian Dawn to Tarragona.
Given that this change impacts a sailing that is still years away in late 2027, exactly how did Norwegian communicate this itinerary shift to booked guests? I mean, what is the reality of changing operational conditions so far in advance? If I book 3 years out, I generally assume my spot is locked in.
You would think so. But Norwegian's communication highlighted the highly fluid nature of maritime operations. In their formal notice to guests, the company stated, and I quote, "Although we coordinate closely with port authorities to confirm every detail well in advance, operational conditions can change."
So they just lost the space.
Essentially, yes. They explained that space was simply no longer available in Lisbon for the required dates. They acknowledged that such significant changes bring disappointment, and they thanked guests for their understanding. But fundamentally, it reflects the ongoing power struggle between cruise lines and highly congested European ports.
The ports hold the leverage, and the cruise lines have to adapt.
Precisely.
Which brings us perfectly to our final story. If you can't control the viruses and you can't control the municipal ports in Europe, what do?
You build your own ports.
Exactly. We move now from sudden 2027 itinerary adjustments to proactive 2026 booking incentives, examining how cruise lines are packaging financial deals with massive new private destinations. Norwegian Cruise Line has announced a 50% discount on its 2026 summer close-to-home programs, covering sailings from June through September.
And this promotion applies to departures from 15 continental U.S. and Canadian home ports. In addition to the fare discount, the promotion includes a kids' sail free offer on select departures and packages the fare with the line's free at sea bundle.
Which is a big selling point for them.
It is. Norwegian claims this bundle provides over $2,000 in value.
Let's unpack the map on that for the listener, because free at sea is a very specific type of marketing. If we break down the exact financial components of that bundle for these 2026 departures, what are guests actually getting? And what are they still paying for?
Well, it's crucial to read the fine print. Guests receive an unlimited premium beverage package, which sounds fantastic. But it is important to note that this component still carries a 20% service charge on the associated gratuities.
Right, so the drinks are included, but you will pay hundreds of dollars in gratuities up front.
Exactly. The bundle also includes specialty dining, an internet allowance of 150 minutes of Wi-Fi per person, and a $50 shore excursion credit applied to the first guest at each port of call.
Mark Kislauskas, the president of Norwegian Cruise Line, framed the promotion by stating, "The goal is to give travelers the freedom and flexibility to plan their dream vacation." But a major focus of these 2026 regional deployments is the Caribbean programming out of Miami. Specifically, the Norwegian Luna will be sailing 7-day Eastern Caribbean cruises from Miami.
And those itineraries heavily feature Great Stirrup Cay, Norwegian's roughly 270-acre private island in the Bahamas,
which is undergoing a massive expansion.
The scale of the operation plan for Great Stirrup Cay is massive. It perfectly illustrates your point about control. By routing ships to their own private island, Norwegian controls the pier, the food, the drinks, and the excursions. The island is expected to receive 17 different NCL ships and accommodate over 1 million guests in 2026 alone.
1 million guests to a 270-acre island in a single year. That volume is just staggering. It's basically the population of a major American city cycling through a single beach resort.
To support that sheer volume of passengers without the island feeling overcrowded, Norwegian is introducing significant new amenities. Most notably, the Great Tides Water Park, which is scheduled to open on September 4, 2026.
And what's going in there?
It's a nearly 6-acre park that will feature 19 different slides, anchored by a 170-foot tidal tower. The facility will also include cliff jump attractions and a 9,000-square-foot Splash K kids area. For groups wanting a more exclusive experience, the park will offer private cabanas for up to 6 people, which include park admission.
And importantly, for those utilizing the current booking promotion we just discussed, Norwegian confirmed that the free at-sea beverage benefits do apply while guests are on the island. So that drink package works on the beach.
Which is a huge perk for guests.
Definitely. The promotion also rounds out several other key regional deployments. The Norwegian Jewel will be expanding access to Bermuda from Boston, New York, and Philadelphia before transitioning to Canada and New England in September. And out west, the Norwegian Jade will be operating Alaska voyages out of Vancouver.
But going back to the private island infrastructure real quick, if listeners are interested in the new Great Tides water park, they need to understand the booking logistics. Accessing the new island amenities is managed strictly through the line's post-booking portal.
Meaning you can't just buy a ticket to the water park when you initially book the cruise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Day passes for eligible Great Tides water park visits officially opened for sale on May 28th through the MyNCL system. They can only be purchased after a cruise reservation is firmly secured. Furthermore, Norwegian stated that the pricing for both general admission tickets and the private cabanas will vary based on seasonality.
So they utilize dynamic pricing, much like airlines or theme parks. And there's another interesting pricing strategy here. While the line heavily publicized the 50% discount on the 2026 summer sailings, they did not disclose a specific starting base fare for the close-to-home cruise promotion.
Right.
Meaning your total out-of-pocket costs will fluctuate significantly based on the specific ship, date, and cabin category selected. It makes it quite difficult to calculate the exact dollar value of the discount before you start the booking process.
It is a sophisticated revenue management strategy. By focusing the marketing on the percentage discount and the bundled amenities, the cruise line maintains pricing flexibility on the base fare itself.
As cruise lines continue to expand massive private island infrastructure, like the upcoming Great Tides water park, consider how these controlled resort-style environments might increasingly shift the balance away from traditional port destinations in future itinerary planning. If a cruise line can guarantee their operational environment and keep passenger spending entirely in-house, we may see the traditional port hopping model undergo a significant transformation.
Thanks for listening to Cruise News. Visit cruisenews.io to catch up on the latest updates and sign up for free email alerts.